Hi, thank you everyone for being here today and for inviting me to join you. Unfortunately, the Senator couldn't be here in person, but did want to be part of this conversation, so I have a video to share with you here momentarily. But first, I'd just like to recognize the Senator's leadership on agriculture policy. In 2014, as chairwoman of the Agriculture Committee, she passed bipartisan legislation that increased funding for specialty crops, organics, created new nutrition incentives, expanded farmers markets, and local foods. This week, she's had the pleasure of introducing a new Urban Agriculture Act, and I will turn it over to the video to share a little bit more.
Good afternoon. I really wish I could be with you in person today, but I'm so glad you're all getting together to discuss urban agriculture and the many ways, the many opportunities that come with urban food production. Kathleen Merrigan, thank you for your leadership in co-hosting the conference and for all the great things you continue to do. Sabine O'Hara and Mike Ham and Deb Atwood, thank you as well for co-hosting this really important conference. Today's event is so important for urban agriculture and expanding it in the national dialogue. As you know, urban ag is one of many strategies that strengthens the urban food system, creates economic opportunity, gives families greater access to healthy food, and fosters healthier environments in our cities and our towns. We've seen this impact in Michigan, where Detroit's 1,400 networked urban farms and gardens are contributing $3.8 million to the local economy. It's clear that urban agriculture is an important part of the whole agriculture sector and should be incorporated into our nation's broader food and agriculture discussion. Many of you know this. This room is full of local leaders and urban farmers and healthy food advocates and city planners and educators and environmental stewards. A great coalition of support for urban ag moving forward. And I know you've worked hard to expand urban agriculture opportunities in your own communities, from passing local ag zoning ordinances and city farming legislation, to creating new food policy councils that brought local solutions to food and ag issues. All of your work has laid the foundation for new national urban agricultural policies. This past Monday, I announced the Urban Agricultural Act of 2016, the first urban agriculture legislation to be introduced in the United States Senate. This bill will support your efforts to encourage and expand urban ag across the country and to put a new important focus on urban agriculture in the USDA. For the first time, this bill will make USDA business planning resources, loan programs, risk management tools, and conservation programs more accessible to farmers. The bill also provides significant new resources, specifically designed to meet the unique needs of urban producers, including investments in soil testing and remediation, and new research for technologies that lower energy and water needs. This bill is not designed to take away resources from other farmers, but rather to recognize a new and growing area of agriculture and to encourage stronger connections across all sectors of agriculture and our food system. As I've said before, farming is not all rural, and hunger is not only urban. So I look forward to working with all of you as we start this new national conversation about urban agriculture's important role in our communities and in our food system. Have a great day.
Great, and I'm happy to take some questions. Or not. Sure. Yeah, I think,
So I don't think you want to call on people in the audience.
Okay.
Sorry, because we've got this whole pigeonhole thing. They'll pull up questions in a minute. Maybe what you could do, Kate, is just give a few examples of some of the things in the legislation, since so many people haven't had a chance to read it. It's so
Sure.
familiar. And that will probably drive some of the questions. So, so they haven't been posted yet, but they're going to start.
oh, here they
Okay?
go. Great. Thanks, everyone. So just to kind of give a quick little snapshot of really what's in the bill, the bill really kind of focuses its cornerstone on creating a new urban agriculture office at USDA that will really help to manage and deliver programs to all urban farmers across the country. But really, the bill does focus on, new and improved access for farm service programs, risk management tools, conservation programs. Right now, there are certain limitations. For example, if you're a rooftop farmer, being able to get access to some of those resources. There's a huge investment in promoting some of the environmental benefits that come with urban agriculture. And really, to kind of cap it all off, it's really focusing on new data collection and investments in new research. So that's just kind of a real quick snapshot, but let me turn over to the questions real quick. So the first question is, how does the new bill tie into the next Farm Bill? And really, it does this in a few different ways. I think that the senator's idea of putting out what we call marker legislation on the Urban Agriculture Act is really an opportunity to start the conversation and to start the next dialogue about the new Farm Bill. And so this is the opportunity to bring everybody together and figure out, how we can incorporate some of these things into the next Farm Bill. The next question. Moving everything all around. How will farmers' unique needs be met through this act? Where will the funding come from? So farmers' unique needs through this act, I think that's a little bit of an interesting perspective on this. I think that urban farmers have unique needs because they haven't been part of the overall farming conversation at the same level and the same degree to date. And so in terms of looking at some of those needs, that is part of the reason why this bill is out there, is to start that conversation and to really find out how it can be supportive of that. And in terms of where the funding comes from, this bill does not have an offset at this point in time. This bill is really to garner more ideas and more support, and so we don't know where that funding will come from yet, but that's still a huge part of the next conversation. Next question, what can people do to get support for this bill in Congress? I think that there are a variety of things that people can do. Having conversations like this, going back to your communities and having conversations about urban agriculture, meeting with your elected officials, just talking about it more, talking about it with the rest of your farming community friends, and really drawing in some of those connections between why this is important for economic development, why this is important for community development, and really drawing the connections as well between urban and rural farmers. Next question, more challenges for farmers based on municipal regulations like zoning, bees, commercial activities from homes, et cetera. This keeps all getting moved around. How does this bill help with those concerns? So you're absolutely right. There are a lot of very local issues in terms of regulation and zoning, and really this bill is designed to build on local efforts. This bill isn't designed to supersede, local zoning laws or those kinds of things. Thank you. It's really designed to help kind of with the overall advancement of urban agriculture at the federal level. So what that means is that at USDA delivers a lot of different types of programs and resources, and the idea is not to take away from the local support and the local efforts to get this done. Great. Okay, next question. How much money does the bill set aside for urban agriculture? where do the proposed funds come from? So right now, this new bill will cost $46 million a year, $5 million of which will go towards new community gardens. So that would be site construction and equipment, things of that nature, and $10 million will be put into new research efforts. The rest of the changes come out of the rest of the costs come out of changes to the NAP program, the Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program. And I guess where, I mentioned this before, where do those proposed funds come from? We're still in discussions about that. Okay. How do you get bipartisan support for something like this? I think that that's an excellent question. I do think that because urban agriculture is happening in all 50 states, and whether that's in major metropolitan areas or small rural towns, we're seeing examples of it absolutely everywhere. And I think that it is part of a growing recognition in the agriculture community that this is something to care about. This is part of the conversation going forward and really part of how, as a whole agriculture community, folks can come together around it. And so I think folks across the aisle are very excited about this as well. I think that it's something that everybody needs to be part of the conversation in. And I think that if we're going to see success in urban agriculture moving forward, that those conversations need to be had. The next question. How do we ensure that the new office of USDA doesn't continue the history of discrimination against minority farmers that has historically plagued the agency? I think this is a great question. I think that this is a really important piece of where this conversation needs to go. USDA has had a long and horrible history of how certain populations have been treated in the past, and I think that as we continue this conversation around urban agriculture, we need to make sure that we're looking at all different components of the conversation, and really that's something that USDA is going to have to take a close look at as well as they're implementing the new policies. How will urban farmers and producers be made aware of these resources? So the idea behind having a new office of urban agriculture and working very closely with the Extension Service will help to provide those resources to farmers. This is a long process. It's going to take time to educate folks, but I think, again, even having conversations like this and knowing where to go for some of those resources will really help to promote that. Does the new bill address composting in any way? So yes, it does. There is a pilot program that specifically puts money, it creates a pilot program that specifically puts money into municipalities to develop integrated composting plans and food waste management tools. So we're really excited about that. Great. Do I have time for any more? Oh, okay. Next question. How do you convince traditional ag supporters that this is worth supporting and, more importantly, funding? So I think that in a lot of the conversations that I've had with traditional ag, and I think that this is going to be an ongoing conversation, I think that there is a really great connection that can be made in urban communities around urban farming that can tie back to why all of agriculture is important. And I think that this is something that needs to be emphasized in how we're talking about this as well, because we'd like to see more resources available in the next Farm Bill, and this is part of a bigger overall pie rather than trying to create two different systems. Okay, and again, funding, I think I talked a little bit about that part before.
They could keep you
They
in
could keep you for a long
Q&A
time.
all day.
Great.
The important thing to know is that we're still all trying to get our minds around this big piece of work that you've been working on behind the scenes. If you go to the Pigeonhole, you'll have access to the press announcement. The senator did a really nice event on Monday, was it?
Yeah.
In Michigan,
She did.
her home state. And there's also a link to the full text of the bill. So read it all. get your ideas back to the Food Institute. More importantly, get them directly back to Katie and Senator Stabenow. And we thank you for your leadership.
Great. Thank you all so much.